It was estimated that he was bringing in about $20 million a year. That came from royalties from songs, both his own and the Beatles catalog. He was never going on the road anymore, and the way a musician really makes a lot of money is going out on the road, and so he was only bringing in $20 million a year. But he was spending $30 to $40 million a year. He would go on these lavish spending sprees in Las Vegas, in Europe, in Asia, and that was Michael Jackson's, really his downfall financially as his life grew to an end.
Michael Jackson made more money than almost any entertainer in history. Throughout his career, he earned well over $1 billion, yet, by the time of his death, reports claimed he was hundreds of millions in debt. So where did all that money actually go? It wasn't just Neverland, it wasn't just shopping sprees. Michael spent his fortune on dreams, business deals, charity, art, security, and one of the most expensive lifestyles the world had ever seen.
Art, he was spending on houses, he was spending on meals, wine, you name it, Michael Jackson was spending. Jackson, in the peak of his career, was a stellar businessman. As his life wore on and he became more of a reclusive individual and less of an entertainer, you know, enablers, entourages, handlers really screwed his finances up, and I think he withdrew from Michael Jackson, the brand, very much so, and allowed people to kind of hijack his finances. And, you know, he didn't do himself any good by going on these lavish spending.
Michael's earning power began when he was still a child, as the frontman of the Jackson 5. He was already a major chart star before becoming a teenager, but his solo career transformed him into a business empire. Off the Wall in 1979 proved he could succeed without his brothers. Then in 1982 Thriller changed everything. It became the best-selling album of all time, selling more than 65 million copies worldwide, and turning Michael into one of the biggest entertainers on the planet. The albums that followed, including Bad, Dangerous, and History, kept the momentum going through the 80s and 90s. Supported by record-breaking world tours that filled stadiums across 5 continents. Beyond albums and touring, Michael also earned money through merchandising licensing deals, and one of the most famous endorsement partnerships in advertising history, his multi-million-dollar deal with Pepsi, added to publishing royalties from his own songwriting. And across 4 decades, Michael Jackson is estimated to have earned well over $1 billion in gross career income. If albums and touring made Michael famous, one deal helped turn him into a mogul: the purchase of the ATV music catalog.
In the restaurant saying, talk to Rodney about his publishing. So I'm like, yo, this is why I'm here. Like, and so then I come back and he goes, so I want to talk to you about something. He goes, I want to talk to you about your publishing and see if you're interested in selling it to me.
You wanted to buy your publishing?
Yeah.
Right, because I remember I interviewed Eddie Griffin.
Yeah.
Right? And those two were close.
They were, yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Eddie actually took Michael to his court date and everything.
Yeah.
And Eddie was telling me about the story that Michael was telling him. He was working with Paul McCartney on one of their projects, right?
The story began in an unexpected way with Paul McCartney. In the early 1980s, while the two were working together on songs, McCartney explained to Michael how music publishing worked, and why owning the rights to a song could be worth more than simply performing it. McCartney intended it as friendly advice. Michael saw it as a business opportunity.
Yeah. Why I'm doing the video with the Beatles. That's gangster.
Right.
Michael walks into Paul McCartney. You're gonna sell the Beatles? How much you sell them for? Oh, I don't know, about 60 million. Wow, that's a lot of money. Go right to his trailer, get his people on the phone. Paul don't find out till the next day Michael done bought the Beatles. That say, how can you buy Beatles? How can you buy Beatles? He said 60, I gave you 64. That's a lot of money. The girl is mine.
Your publishing's mine.
This nigga's a gangster.
Definitely talked to me about it, but then he talked to me about like his it was really on his album, not necessarily everything, but just like his album, you know.
Oh, he wanted to own all the publishing on the album you guys are working on.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, and I was like, let's talk about it, you know.
In 1985, Michael learned that ATV Music was for sale, and the catalog included 251 Beatles songs along with thousands of other tracks. He competed against several major buyers, including entertainment executives, and even Paul McCartney himself. Michael eventually won the bidding and purchased ATV for roughly $47.5 million.
Well, we bought the catalog in 1985. We spent $47.5 million, which is well known. We sold off a background music library, so his net investment was about $41 million. And while I can't give out confidential details, it's been reported that Sony ATV is worth upwards of $2 billion. And
at the time, many people in the industry believed Michael had paid too much. A decade later, the purchase looked like one of the smartest investments he had ever made. In 1995, Michael merged the catalog with Sony to create Sony ATV, a joint venture that became the largest music publishing company in the world. The company eventually controlled rights to songs by artists ranging from Bob Dylan to Taylor Swift. That single deal generated tens of millions of dollars in royalties for Michael every year and became the financial foundation he relied on for the rest of his life.
Now forms the cornerstone for his net worth. Michael has his own publishing company, which is called MyJack, which owns all of his own songs as well as many other songs we bought over the years. So when you add the two companies together, it's even more valuable. You know, one doesn't want to have to sell those assets. So those are cornerstone assets that we plan on keeping for Michael's children.
Paul McCartney has spoken about the well-known story behind Michael Jackson purchasing the Beatles publishing catalog. The deal would later become one of the most discussed business moves in music history.
You know, it's a funny thing. We had quite a good little relationship. He rang me up one Christmas Day, I think it was, and I heard this, hello?
He's very weird.
Hello?
Yeah.
I said, hello, is this? I thought, uh-oh, wait a minute, this American fan's got my home phone number.
Right.
This is where they said, hello, yes.
Yeah,
no, he's not here.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. So, anyway, he came over. I said, what do you want to do? He said, make some hits. I said, that sounds good. So we got a little relationship there. It was quite good fun. And it is true, he did ask me. He said, got some advice, Paul? Yeah. I took him aside and said, diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doodle, and think about getting into music publishing.
But no discussion of Michael's spending is complete without Neverland. In 1988, Michael purchased Sycamore Valley Ranch in Santa Barbara County and transformed it into Neverland, a private wonderland inspired by his own childhood fantasies. The 2,700-acre property was completely redesigned with a full amusement park featuring carnival rides, a private zoo with exotic animals, a working railroad with its own train station, a movie theater, expansive gardens, and elaborate landscaping.
The game room is right there. See where that big machine is inside? Yeah. That's where I play all my games. And that's the tennis court.
Running Neverland was not a one-time expense. The property became a massive ongoing cost that required hundreds of full-time employees, including groundskeepers, ride operators, zookeepers, security personnel, and its own private fire department. Reports estimated the ranch cost several $million every year just to maintain and operate, whether Michael was living there or not. It was far more than a home. It was almost like a small self-sustaining town built around one man's imagination, and it became one of the largest ongoing expenses of his life.
Here in the main house at Neverland, this was a room where Michael Jackson would greet his closest friends, and it was a room filled with artwork. These walls had huge paintings on them, some depicting Michael Jackson in whimsical or magical situations. He also loved all kinds of art. There were statues everywhere. One of the statues that I was told was located right here was of a butler with a tray with cookies on it, so he would welcome people in that way. At the other end of the foyer down here, there was a huge clock, a two-sided marble clock that was so heavy that workers had to come here to Neverland Ranch and actually reinforce the floor here so that that clock would not fall through to the basement below. Now from the foyer, we can take a couple of steps down into the main living room. This was filled with couches and chairs and rugs, and in this corner here there was a grand piano. On the top of the grand piano there were dozens of photographs, framed photographs of Michael and his family members and his...
Michael's personal shopping habits became legendary, and this is where the story gets interesting. One of the most famous stories involves an antique shopping trip in Las Vegas, where he reportedly spent millions of dollars in just a few hours. He bought entire showrooms filled with furniture, statues, and decorations during a single visit. It was not unusual for stores to close their doors to the public so Michael could shop privately without being disturbed by fans or cameras.